welcome to this week's Raqs Talks. I'm Faiza.
I'm Parazad.
Today we have our friend Katie Sahar. Let's get to it.
All right, let's do it. Katie, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. I'm super excited.
So we have actually never met in person, but I feel like I know you.
I know, right?
I mean, I follow you on social media, and then you came out and hung out with Adrienne, my belly dance wife. Yep. She said, "Oh, you have to meet Katie. She's one of us." So
that's exactly what she said to me about you as well. I was like, these are my people. I think I friend requested you like after like the 80th time she brought you up. And I'm like, I think I just need to be friends with Faiza now. Like,
yes. That one was like, okay, yay. Yes, one of us. And then, oh my gosh, I was definitely sold when that TikTok video where you're like, how I think I sound when I'm singing along with my Arabic songs. I forward that to you?
You might have. Oh, I need to see it now, though.
Yeah, I love TikTok. I've been neglecting it for the past couple weeks, but TikTok is so much fun. And that was somebody else's audio. And that was actually, I think she's Syrian. That was from some Syrian girl, and it was like kind of poking fun of us white girls, you know. I don't like I'm trying my best, but I already speak Mandarin, so it's like, dude, trying to get another complicated language up here is a big ask. So.
Yes. So how did you start with belly dance? Let's start with that.
Sure, I can actually, I mean, it actually kind of circles back to my Chinese stuff, but
of course it does.
Because of course, right? Because duh. I actually did my undergrad in China, and I was there. I lived there for 5 years teaching English, and then I got my bachelor's degree there, and then I came home and I was working at the corporate job that I work at now. And a friend of mine who was kind of on the periphery of the Middle Eastern community, of what small one we do have here in Minneapolis, she was like, you should try belly dancing. You would be really good at it. And I really had no clue, like, anything that belly dance was even Middle Eastern. Like, I was just like, oh, this just sounds like fun. So I took a class, and then I took more classes, and then I quickly became that beginner that was like in class 3 times a week. Like, it sucked me in so heavily. And
nice.
Yeah. Nice. And so here I am now, like 11 years later. I would have never guessed that this would be like the trajectory that my life has taken by any means.
Fantastic. So I was going to ask how long, but you just answered.
Oh yeah, there we go. 11. Yeah, about 11 years now. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're done. Just kidding.
Okay, good.
Thanks. No. One of the reasons that I really wanted to talk to you was you just put up a blog post about belly dancers utilizing social media, and I thought it was a really great post, and you had some really good points, and I actually tagged this one.
As far as she's concerned, I am the absolute worst at Instagram, just because I'm like, I don't want to take perfect, I'm so much more comfortable with Facebook because I can just say my funny thing and leave. You know, background in acting, like, I'm comfortable with being funny. But like with Instagram, like, the pressure to have the perfect picture and to just be like, oh my God, I just got out of the gym half an hour ago, took a shower, slapped on some makeup, and like threw my hair up in a messy bun, and I am perfect. Hashtag I woke up like this.
No, that's my secret. I walk around with a photographer 24/7 and a makeup artist. No, I understand that for real. Like, that pressure is so real, especially in the belly dance community, right? Because we have it coming from different angles, and it's tiring and it's exhausting. You know, like, I know you ladies are professionals, you're doing gigs and all that kind of stuff, but you're also kind of in the hobbyist circuit as well, where it's like you go to festivals and you go on stages and all of that. You know, I think there's room for everything. The cool thing is right now, if you talk to social media experts, and I mean people who study this really, really heavily and know the method to the madness and all that, there is a huge shift going on right now in social media, and it kind of predates the pandemic a little bit. This was happening a little bit toward the end of last year. There's a huge shift right now from those perfectly curated feeds that, you know, one of the big pieces of Instagram advice people get is to make sure that you use the same filter, so everything looks cohesive and perfect. And, you know, you don't want to have, you know, 2 of these kind of pictures next together. dude, nobody has time for that. Like,
Right.
you know, unless you're a legit influencer, that is your job where you're getting paid to be that perfect. Nobody has time for that. But now things are shifting. There's influencers at every level. Like, you can be an influencer and not have 10,000 followers. And the reason that people are following those people, not just in belly dance, but across social media, is because they are more authentic. You know, it's not just like, oh, look at me in my perfect life, and oh, I'm just traveling, and oh yes, and then just posting once a week these like beautifully filtered Photoshop videos. Like, people don't relate to that anymore, especially if you're in the influencer space where you are advertising products or that kind of thing. Like, I mean, my Instagram is advertising myself, right? I'm advertising my classes and coaching and all that kind of stuff. People don't relate to that. Like, they relate to like, hey, kind of having a crappy day, and here's a dance video of me just hanging out, like just improvising. And I've gotten such a good reaction from it. And it's just like, I've felt like, man, if I can do it, everybody can. Like, everybody can put themselves out there in that way. And so you don't need to have that perfect whatever. Like, that's over across all of social media. That kind of thing is over. There's still a place for your nice photo shoot shots and your professional videos from festivals. If, you know, we're looking for reaching a wider audience, we need to be relatable and relatable. Yeah, relatable and authentic. I know I'm super passionate about getting more people into this dance, and that's how we're going to do it, right?
That's true. I like that.
I'm actually working with a social media coach right now. I'm in a mastermind with her, and I'm with ladies. There's flight attendants who are doing travel blogs. There's fashion, not high fashion, but like street fashion with clothing boutiques and just different things. And really, at any of our levels, you know, we're not selling that aspirational thing. Like, you can sell a little bit of it, but like what I would sell is not like, oh, be like me and you can be this glamorous belly dancer. What I would be selling is, hey, I'm kind of this normal average person that decided to belly dance, and hey, I'm actually pretty good at it. Like, take classes with me and you can feel comfortable too, right? And I think there's something to be said for that. But even with the big influencers now, they definitely go on their stories a lot with no filters, no makeup. They're talking to their audiences. And I think the pandemic has kind of strengthened this a little bit because we're so disconnected from our day-to-day social lives. Like, we're not seeing our friends and family as much. And so that's become like a new way to connect with people. We want to feel something. You want to feel something here, right? And that's why I signed up for this course. I mean, I'm paying for it. But with my coach, Lisette, it was like, I just saw her and I'm like, she's definitely, you know, she's not perfect. I mean, she's gorgeous and amazing, of course, but
Right.
you know, she's just very down to earth, and she has a great story about how she's gotten out of debt, and her parents were immigrants. I don't relate to the immigrant story, but I feel something when it's just like, hey, this girl made it. She would have had no idea that she would have been, you know, a persuasive force in people's lives, but that's what she decided to do. She went for it, and you know, we just, you know, we vibed. And that's what we're trying to put out with the authenticity and all that, is just finding different people that you vibe with. Like Adrienne. I know Adrienne through Amanda because I do coaching with Amanda. And before I went to LA last year, I had never met her in person. Like, I just knew her through Instagram and all of that, but I knew she was one of my people.
Right.
You know, and I mentioned that I was coming out to LA for the Iraqi intensive, and she's like, hey, why don't you just stay with me for a couple nights? I'm going to be going to that. And I'm like, okay, sure. And you know, we vibed, right? And we want to just be able to find not only other dancers in our community that we vibe with, but if you're a teacher or you're doing gigs or anything like that, that's another avenue to pull people into your, you know, your sphere of influence, right? That they just, even if they don't end up buying from you or taking classes or hiring you for a gig, at least you're kind of like a positive influence or a positive part of their day when they scroll or, you know, look through your stories or whatever. So
you had also, probably a month ago, I guess, with all of the unrest that is going on in our country these days, that has, of course, filtered down into our sub-community and discussions about race and things like that. And I really appreciate, I don't know if it was on a post that I did. And one of the things that you said was, how can we help marginalized people get more notice? That wasn't, you put it much more eloquently than I am right now. But I mean, people were talking about how all of the skinny white women that we are constantly hiring for our gigs, and that's who we're going to their workshops, and that's we're putting in our showcases, and they're not the end all be all in our dance form, but they're also the ones that have curated Instagram feeds and that kind of thing. And so your point, which I thought was really good, was how can we help people that are not the skinny white women elevate their voices within our community and have their social media have more influence in our community. I thought that was really interesting because, you know, that's something I have struggled with social media. I mean, I read all the articles about it, I read the blogs about it, and I try to follow some of these things. Nevertheless, like my Facebook fan page is still almost entirely like dudes, and they don't care about actual belly dance. I would like more people within my community, but they, for whatever reason, are just not coming up within our community on my Facebook fan page.
Yeah.
So that really kind of struck a chord with me. It's like, how do we elevate the non-belly dance superstars that already, you know, have Miles Copeland behind them?
Yeah, and I've seen this a couple times before. It's just like, yes, we need to be hiring, you know, dancers of color or, you know, LGBT, whatever, older, curvier, whatever, you know, modifier you want to put. And I totally agree. Like your feed, the one thing we do have control over is who we follow. You know, I kind of wrote my blog post, and I'm kind of embarking on this thing is a little bit, to be really honest, but it's a little bit of a sense of frustration because I see a lot of wonderful belly dancers and they go, well, how come nobody's watching me and nobody's this or that? And it's not because they're not good. It's just that they don't know the rules of the game. They know the rules of the game inside the belly dance community. Like, you know, they know who's who, they know who's doing festivals, they know who's doing that. But I know a lot of people, but I still don't know everybody. But I do have like 9,200 followers on Instagram. But for me, not being some A-lister on a festival, or I'm not, you know, Minneapolis is pretty dead for belly dance. We don't have a lot going on here. And I mean, yeah, 80% of my audience is dudes, but I figured out the system, right? I figured out how to do it. And then once you reach a certain point, you know, you start just getting, it kind of becomes the snowball effect.
Yeah.
So the thing is you can't just put up one video, like one video or one picture a week and be like, okay, well, I posted on Instagram. Like, that ain't gonna cut it. Like, that's who we're talking to over there. I get that, like, oh my God, I just want to be dancing. I don't want to be posting on social media constantly. I don't want to have to worry about that. You know, I'd rather just be doing, I hate doing, you know, we all hate the admin stuff, like, you know, doing our taxes and marketing and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't have to take that long. And because it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like we were talking about before, it doesn't need to be so time consuming. And so that's why I created a challenge. It's going to start on September 1st, which I'm really excited about. And it's basically, people are just going to be posting 4 times a week. I'm not asking for every day because I think for somebody to go from inconsistent posting to consistent, you don't want to just be like, okay, post 10 times a week. Like, that's setting you up for failure. So
yeah,
it is. I mean, that's human nature, right? And so I set up like a 4 times a week kind of thing. I'm going to be, you know, guiding people through it on my page. And I actually have some prizes that I've confirmed from really cool dancers that have thrown in some prizes. So I'm excited about that. But
nice.
I'm so competitive too. So it's exactly right for me. I'm like, prizes, you say?
I know at first I was kind of like, well, you know, I get a little bit sanctimonious sometimes. And I'm like, well, people should just want to do this challenge because it's good for them. And I'm like, girl, no, step back. You need to incentivize it, not just that it's going to be good for them. So it was kind of the sense of frustration. Like, I want to uplift my dancers that I love who, like I said, any modifier, Black, Latina, non-binary, whatever, you know, I want to be able to uplift them, but I can't uplift them if they're only posting once a week and then people who are going to go follow them aren't getting anything. You know, social media is kind of a value transaction, right? People follow you because they're getting something from you.
Right.
And so, you know, I feel kind of like, you know, I share good posts, but it's just like, you know, for me to share somebody, it's just like, I don't care if you only have 10 followers. I don't give a F. Like, that doesn't matter to me. But I want to see some regular quality and consistency coming out of you. And, And so it's just like, instead of me just bitching, like just being like, you just need to post more and get over it. No, I wanted to create something that kind of hold people's hands through it and be like, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the curated feeds and a professional photographer following you around 24/7. You can DIY this. And it doesn't need to be a super heavy time commitment. Okay, I spend more time scrolling Instagram than I do like planning out my posts and stuff. Like, unless I am very specifically going to take a video for Instagram, which I do, like, because I like attention, I'm not gonna lie. It takes me maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours a week to kind of plan out what I'm gonna post, pick out pictures or, write captions and stuff like that. And I mean, if you think about it, you spend 1 to 2 hours a week just doom scrolling Facebook these days.
Well, a week?
Yeah.
A day?
Yeah. Exactly. A day. You do that a day, right? So, instead of, I use doom scrolling, but that useless kind of like, oh, I just opened my phone and 20 minutes later, right, I've been here and I've written a dissertation on why this kind of bread yeast is better than that one. You can do something a little bit, more productive with your time. And especially, I'm so passionate about this right now because we're in this pandemic, everything's online. I don't see that going away anytime soon. Even with workshops and festivals, there's going to be an online component forever, right? Yeah. And that's where people find us now. And so it's just like, I just want to up other belly dancers' game so we all do better and we can make it through this pandemic because, we always have our peaks and valleys and all of that. And I think even before the pandemic, we were kind of in a valley. And so if we all start doing better and we're all like, hey, we're serious, but we're also fun and we're relatable. Like, this is a hobby that is accessible to anybody who respects Middle Eastern culture. Let's all just do better because it's just like, I can't teach everybody. You can't teach everybody. You can't teach, nobody can be everything to everybody. Let's get some different voices in the mix, right? Yeah, it's one of those corny sayings, like, if I do better, then other people do better. But I really believe it. I really, really, really do believe that. So that's kind of my whole end game with this social media thing.
No, I love that. I'm always trying to figure it out. And I love that you are willing to share with us what you have found. Because it's not just a belly dance thing, but people just don't want to share what their secrets are because they want to guard them and keep them for themselves. And that's unfortunate when we're in a community that,
we're so small. We're so small. We're so niche. We're so insular, right?
Yeah. And we give a lot of lip service to building each other up.
So much. It's that scarcity mentality that I've been on the receiving end of that I just made a really conscious decision to just not be like that. I don't want to perpetuate it. I don't want to continue. I think there's enough students for everybody. I think there's enough gigs for everybody. Am I going to go be some hotshot dancer in the nightclubs in Cairo anytime soon? No, right? But if we get people interested in belly dance, that doesn't mean that I can't go do weddings somewhere. The list is endless. It could go on and on and on. And it's just like, and if then I'm not right for a gig, then I can, outsource it to somebody else. And if somebody else finds that they're just not the right fit for a gig, they can call me. There's a market for everybody. Like, if I am a tall, chubby girl, like I am 5'11" and I am like a solid size 16, like I do fine when I perform at my restaurants. Like I do fine when I go do private, birthday party gigs and stuff like that. When, the festival circuit, and that's like a whole different thing. But in the general public, sphere of entertainment, like there's places where I can belong and people just don't know it because they haven't seen it.
Right. We actually did a wedding, how long ago was that?
2018.
So a couple years ago, and when the bride hired me, she said she was hiring 3 dancers and she goes, they can look like me too. She was a plus size lady. She goes, you can have plus size ladies too. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have good dancers, whatever their size is.
Sure, yeah, that's been the reception when I dance at the restaurants or I do haflas in more general public settings is and I've been heavier than I am now. Like I was more toward a size 20 for a while. But even then I would have women coming up to me being like, oh my God, I had no idea, chubby women could belly dance. Like I had no, like I thought I had to have a flat belly. I had, you make it so they're like, you're so relatable. Like you look like I look. And even smaller women who are more, they're like, oh my God, like you're so beautiful. Like I feel more comfortable to be myself now that I see you being yourself, right? And it's always, and not even just women. I mean, there was one show, I remember it was a very intimate kind of venue, and the husbands came up to me and they were like, you were just so fun to watch because you were different. Like you had your musicality, this and that, whatever, but you just brought something different to the table for this show. And this was a paid gig. Like, and it, they weren't creepy about it either. It wasn't like, we've all been on the receiving end of those, but it wasn't like that. It was very genuine and very like, wow, like, thanks for dancing. I didn't know who you were and I enjoyed it. You just were something different. And it's just like, that's what, we can start making those shifts. And it's hard in the general public sphere, right? Because, it's the entertainment industry and society on that level is just, it's hard. It's a hard slog, right? But you have to be really brave and you have to just go for it. As far as the festival circuit, I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, there's just no use for it anymore. And I'm done with it. And I'm done going to festivals or whatever that are just going to do the same.
And Katie, to go back to a point that you said about like, the dancers need to be brave. As a dancer, whatever your hang up is about yourself, like I'm a dancer, but I'm blah, I'm too tall, I'm too large, I'm too dark, I'm too thin, I'm too whatever. One of the things that we always say in acting is like, don't fire yourself.
Yes.
Let them fire you. If you somehow manage to get that audition or the cute blonde thing and you're the 5'10" brunette, walk into the room and wait for them to say thank you next.
Exactly.
Like, wait for that. And that's the thing, we talked to Roxanne Shelby and she said one of the things her father used to always say was don't underestimate your audience. Those gentlemen, you could have said like, oh, well, they're only going to want to look at me and objectify me and they're not going to be able to understand what I'm doing, so I'm just going to keep it shallow. Mm-hmm. Instead, you took it to where you took it and they were able to appreciate that. When we post these videos, when we do these things, when we share ourselves, like you're saying, Katie, we open up a whole new world, not just for women or other people who want to come and do the dance, but for people who didn't understand what this dance was before they saw us.
Yeah, I remember before I was a restaurant dancer, I remember dancers being like, you cannot do cane in the restaurant. They don't get it. Or you can't do cane at, these like general public like festival things. And I'm like, I love cane. Okay, I love Saidi. Am I going to pick my most mesmerized heavy piece of music that I have in my iTunes library? No, perhaps not. But dude, when you take that chance of like, hey, I'm going to put a plus size dancer on stage. You're going to affect somebody. When you take that chance of being like, you know what, I'm going to go do cane at the restaurant. That opens up an entire conversation because people come to you, they're like, hey, so what's the deal with the stick? Like, because they think it's like some kind of vaudeville thing, right? And you get to say, actually, this is a dance from Upper Egypt, which is actually Southern Egypt and blah, blah, blah. You can go in the whole spiel of what Saidi is. And then not only are you being super glitzy, entertainment, whatever, but you are doing the dance a little bit of service of, being that cultural bridge, right? And so we can do that in so many ways, with just hiring different dancers and, doing different music. And like, there's so many things that we can do. And for me in particular, like I was constantly told, you know what, just don't bet on being a professional dancer. It's just not going to happen for you. You're too heavy. It's the entertainment industry. And it's like, well, and this is kind of my personality too. I'm going to just do something to spite you.
You are our people.
I just have this like thing where I just want to prove myself. And that's the thing is like, I feel like, because I can only speak toward plus size dancers, but I'm sure other, minority dancers might feel this way because they don't feel themselves represented, is that it kind of becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. When I was a baby belly dancer, I remember somebody came to me and they were like, Katie, you have to watch Imani. She's tall and curvy and thick the way you are. You have to watch her. I mean, Instagram was a thing, I think, but not like it was now, but YouTube was. And I remember I would just search Imani Jabril. Like, I'm like, why aren't there more? I think she had like maybe 6 or 7 videos. And I'm like, I was so thirsty for that. Like, I was so thirsty to find somebody who looked like me or was shaped like me. I was so desperate for it. And that's what I want people to take away from this is you don't know who is thirsty and desperate for whatever you're offering, right? Like, this is why people need to post. Then, like, you don't know who you are for that person. Like, You really have no idea. And that's why I want people to be active. Like there's somebody out there for you that you're going to inspire. And there's probably a lot of somebodies, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Completely honest.
It doesn't necessarily need to be what you present on the outside. It could just be how you explain things or how you relate to them or your music choices or what costs. It could be a million things and you don't know. You don't know what that magic sauce is. So you just got to put it out there. I know a lot of plus size girls who are interested in it, but they never take it to that next level. And I get that it's hard that you have to spend more on your costumes. And frankly, sometimes you have to outwork your competition. Like I have to kick my ass to practice and all that because I know people are judging me by a different standard. I know I have to bring it. I have to bring it technique-wise. I have to bring it costume-wise. I have to bring it stage presence. And so I want to show other, if there's plus-size girls out there, like, hey, you can do this. We're changing things. I'm not going to say you're going to be able to quit your day job and make $100,000 a year being a professional belly dancer at a size 18. I'm not saying that, but there is a payoff there. And if you truly love the art, there is a place for you and let's do it. Like, let's do it. Let's not get, like you said, it's like you get in your own way. People always have an opinion about what you should be doing with your life.
Yes.
Like, it's really interesting sometimes. And something, I kind of like have steeled myself against those comments because having lived in China, like Chinese people are very direct. They'd be like, oh, you're really fat. But then they'd be like, oh, do you want to eat something? It was just like a very matter of fact. You're this tall or you have green eyes or your hair is brown. Right. And so now like I've always been kind of just a loud, audacious person. But then having that experience on top of it, I'm like, okay, tell me something I don't know. Yeah. There's still a lot of internalized crap. I'm not saying I don't feel bad about it or whatever, but I'm like, it's really bizarre to me when I hear fat people say like, oh, I had no idea I could even try that. Like, I didn't I'm so surprised that you traveled and lived in China at 5'11" and, 200 and whatever pounds. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? And then when I realize when people hold themselves back from that kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, this is where I need to step in and use myself as be like, hey, this shouldn't even be a question if you might. If you want to belly dance, try it. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't. If you want to go to France and go write poetry in a cafe, go do it, but don't let that one little thing about you hold you back because people are always going to have something to say about you.
Right.
Always, always, always. That's the only thing guaranteed in life. People are always going to have an opinion about you.
One of the things that I feel like we as a community really need to get over is stopping other people or stopping ourselves, because for every gig that I have gotten because I'm slender and usually blonde, I have lost one because I'm too slender and I'm blonde.
Blonde, yep.
There are many times that I'm just too white. Americans really like to have someone who has that look, I mean, Persians love me for whatever reason. They love me. So that's who I try to market to. But I've lost a lot of gigs because I don't have long dark hair and olive complected skin. If they want an I Dream of Jeannie kind of look, I'm their gal. We need to stop deciding for everyone else, well, this is entertainment, so you have to be this.
And I think that goes to style too. After I started working with Amanda, she comes from such an athletic background.
Right.
And she is so much about like, what can you do? What is it that you can do? Not like, what is it? Of course, your lines should be good and your technique and all that, but it's not so much about that competition thing where it's just like, you need to have this, you need to have that. And you're
right.
And it's just like, no, what can you do? What can you show me? What are you trying to tell me? And getting into that deep work instead of just the surface level work is, I feel like magic can really, really happen, right? Like, I know that you don't have to take every gig that comes to you. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, there's been times that I get requests and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw this to somebody else because this is not my scene. I am not what they want. Like, because I've made that mistake of taking gigs where they thought they were going to, and it, you get paid and it works out fine. Everything always does, right? But it would have been better suited for somebody else. And that's part of being a professional too, right? Like, but that scarcity mentality comes into play where it's like, well, crap, if I don't take this gig, then she's going to get it. And it's just like, dude, it's deciding what avenue you're going to take and not only what role is belly dance going to play in your life, but what role are you going to play in belly dance? And so, we all have something to offer. And it's just like, I'm so excited about this social media thing because I think this is where I can bring a lot of value. Right. Because I've done it and I want to explain it and I want things to get better. I feel like I have a lot of value. Does this mean if somebody came to me and was like, Katie, hey, can you teach a Deb Key workshop? I'd be like, yeah, no, I can get at the back of the line with everybody else, but let me refer you to somebody else who can. Right. Just because somebody asked me to do it doesn't mean I have to. And we have to be okay with that because you can't know everything. You can't do everything. You can't be everything to everybody. And this is actually going into social media as well. You have to know your niche. My niche right now is other belly dancers, particularly who are at the hobbyist quasi-professional, right? The people that inhabit these spaces where it's like, it's not your full-time job, but you're also better than just somebody who has just shown up to a couple haflas. Know when you're going into social media or when you're teaching classes or when you're marketing stuff, who are you marketing it to? Who is your ideal audience? If you're teaching classes, who's your ideal student? If you're marketing yourself for gigs, like you said, Persians really, really adore you. So yeah, it would make sense if you spend a little bit more time and energy in that field. You're not going to go market yourself to white Beverly Hills clients who want some, exotic entertainment that isn't, you know what I mean? You just have to know kind of where you fit. And that also doesn't mean that you already know, because you might fire yourself before you get it. And so you kind of have, it's one of those crappy answers that it's like, you just have to figure it out. Like it's trial and error and just kind of, you just got to see what works. Like I thought being in a troupe was for me. Like I tried so hard to be in several different troupes, and you know what? It doesn't work. It's not my bag. Like it is just, I don't mind directing a group, but I don't want to dance with them because it's too hard. Like I like doing group choreographies and making group choreographies for the dancers who do dance with me, but for me to be in it with them, it's too much. And I don't, I'm probably not the most compliant troupe dancer either, as I'm sure people would say, but and I tried and it didn't work and it's not my thing, and that's okay. And so now I know what my thing is. Like my thing is being myself, being plus size, being an advocate for other dancers who feel marginalized. Like I can't speak to what it's like to be Muslim or Black or, any of the people who have like so many struggles in our society. I can't say that I understand that because I'm white, but I do know what it's like to be marginalized based on my body. And I hope that some of those experiences can translate for other people who feel marginalized. I can't remember how many Facebook threads I've seen just in the past month of people being like, oh, I hate Instagram. Like I hate going on there and all I see is the Russian dancers that all look the same and they all do the same choreographies and they're super athletic. And it's just like, okay, what are you doing to combat that? Like, that's when I put on my tough love hat and I'm like, okay, it's great. Like first of all, unfollow them. Anybody that doesn't make you feel good, just unfollow. There's dancers that I actually really adore and I love them, but I have to mute them from time to time because I start beating myself up because I don't look like them or I don't dance like them, and I just need a break. And it has nothing to do with, it has zero to do with them. They're just living their life and doing their stuff. It has everything to do with me. So I just mute them for a while. Then when I'm feeling better and I've worked on that about myself, I just go back, and the mute button is an amazing feature, by the way, if you guys don't know about that. But, the tough love hat is like, well, so many people are sick of it. So I see it day after day. I'm so sick of the competitions and athleticism. Okay, well, put your crap out there and show us how you're dancing and how you see the music and what costumes you're going to pick, what music you're going to pick, how you're going to choreograph it, or if you're going to improv it or whatever. Show me. Please show me. Take over #belly dance. Like there's the only reason. We have to remember social media is there to make money. That is why there's ads that come up every other Facebook post. That's why there's ads in your Instagram stories. That's why there's ads everywhere. They want to keep you on the app for as long as possible. And they're going to do that by showing you the best performing posts. And the best performing posts, they may not be by the best dancers, but they are going to be by dancers who know the system. They know that they have to be posting X amount of times a week, that they have to be showing up in their stories, that they have to be on, right? And the only way we're going to start when you hop over to your Discover page as opposed to your main feed is if we start doing that. I'm calling us like the belly dance 99%, right? Like the rest of us. Average, normal people, right? The only way we're going to change what we see in the global feat is if we just start, we have to put it out there in mass. We got to do it. We have to do it. And that's it. And once we do it, it's going to be so good for the community. It's going to be so amazing for the community because it's just it's going to uplift everybody, and it's going to make us more visible. It's going to get us more students. It's going to get us more gigs. And it's a long haul thing. It's not going to pay off in a month. It's not going to pay off in 2020 or maybe even 2021, but it will eventually.
Well,
Whoa.
we've been at this for a while, so I think this is a
You have
good
plenty
wrap.
of
No,
minutes.
she is not ready to wrap it up yet.
No, because we need all of your social media handles
yeah.
first.
At katie.sahar for Instagram, katiesahar.com for my website, katie.sahar@gmail if you want to email me, YouTube. Yeah, I'm around. I love talking to people. I love interacting with other dancers. I've made so many freaking amazing friends that I would have never known otherwise. Like Adrienne, like you guys, like, dude, like I know I come out to LA next May and it's just like, oh, we're gonna have a great time. Like,
We are.
I don't know what we're doing, but it's gonna be amazing. This is a great big inshallah for 2021, but hopefully I'll be having Amanda in Minneapolis in May and then having Azad back sometime October, November
Nice.
next year. So that's even if I'm not of interest of you, those two dancers should be, because they're both amazing compliments to each other that I just adore. But yeah, that's where you can find me, and I love talking to people. So come talk at me.
Well, thank you so much for
Thanks
doing
for having me. I was so honored. I was so happy when I got that DM.
So that was Katie Sahar. Thank you so much, Katie, for being on our show.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Faiza.
I'm Parazad. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you can. Masalama.